I never thought I would find myself in a situation where I would be humiliated on a client video call. It was just another day at the law firm where I worked as an associate attorney, dedicated to my job and focused on doing things right. My work mattered because I helped people who needed legal guidance, ensuring that their best interests were protected. But as soon as the call began, everything changed. The chief executive officer's son, a man named Greg, looked right at me and casually said, "You should be grateful you even have a job." I felt the heat rise to my cheeks as I realized how publicly and shockingly he belittled me. It was a disrespectful moment that left me stunned, but I clenched my fists and decided I would not let it break me. My warning about a risk tied to a $3,500,000 client project had been ignored, and by the end of that call, I knew my job was on the line. I thought it was over, but it was just the beginning of a 9-month battle against Greg's arrogance and poor decisions. That is when the first problem arose. Our firm's neglected obligations led to a client complaint. The client was furious and reached out, voicing concerns about missing deadlines that I had warned about. I initially thought they would listen, but instead they brushed me off. Week after week, I could see that Greg's decisions were leading us down a terrible path. The stakes escalated when we lost another major vendor for not meeting project requirements due to Greg's reckless choices. I tried to stay calm. I gathered up my resolve and continued working. But as time went on, the pressure mounted. I heard whispers in the office. "Did you see Alina? She's going to get fired soon." My heart sank. It felt like my colleagues were turning against me. One day, I walked by the break room and overheard Greg saying, "It is all her fault. If only she had done her job properly." Those words cut deep. Then it got worse. I was called into a meeting with Greg and other senior staff. They made me listen as they blamed me for all the issues we faced. I said, "I tried to warn everyone," but they merely brushed me aside. I thought I had lost everything. I went home that night, feeling defeated, but I remembered my client complaint log. Over the past few months, I had quietly saved emails and documented every problem that arose, every warning issued, and complaints received. I took a deep breath and realized I had leverage. If I could just wait for the right opportunity, I might be able to turn things around. As the months passed, our clients grew restless. Greg's incompetence had led to countless issues with 11 vendors, all looking for someone to blame. I noticed my chance when I received an invitation for a critical client video call. I had no idea that things would come to a head during this call. I logged in and Greg joined, still unaware of the storm brewing. The clients were already frustrated, and I listened closely as they expressed their anger. "We cannot continue this way, and we want answers," they demanded. I felt the weight of their words. That is when I confidently knew it was time to speak up. I smiled calmly as I gathered my evidence. I shared my screen and revealed the proof I had collected over the past few months, showing the timeline of events, the ignored warning emails, and the complete client complaint log. Greg's face went pale as the evidence unfolded in front of everyone. I said, "Here is the timeline of what went wrong, and here are the emails I sent warning about these risks." The clients listened intently, and the tension in the call thickened. What they did next shocked me. Greg tried to deflect blame, saying, "That is not what happened." But at this point, everyone could see the truth. The clients turned to Greg, demanding answers, and I stayed calm. My heart raced with satisfaction as he stuttered, I did not expect this." Then it hit me, he had no choice but to admit the truth. "Okay, I admit it." "I ignored those warnings," he finally said, the realization hitting him hard as he spoke. In that moment, I felt a rush of empowerment. I calmly said, "It is clear we need to make some changes. We can no longer ignore the issues we face." I could feel the room shifting, and I maintained my composure. The clients were upset, but they now saw a clear path forward without Greg's incompetence blocking the way. After the call, I decided not to rescue Greg. I did not need to. I had done everything I could, and now it was time for consequences. I knew the leadership team had to face the music for their failure to address these ongoing issues. Days later, an emergency meeting was called. The atmosphere was tense, and I could see Greg squirming as the senior executives addressed the vendor issues. They expected everyone to say it was my fault, but I knew better. I stepped forward confidently. I calmly stated, "Can we revisit the call footage from the client meeting?" The records of the ignored warnings prove everything. The members of leadership exchanged nervous glances, and I could tell they realized they could no longer ignore the truth. The moment felt electric. After reviewing everything, I saw a shift in their attitude. What they thought was going to be my downfall became their exposure instead. I am proud to say that in the end, Greg was demoted. The executive team recognized their failures and began improving their practices. I received a promotion to a senior position where I would have full authority to ensure that no one else would have to go through what I endured. As I walked out of that meeting, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, and I knew I had a fresh start ahead of me. I smiled as I headed to my office, knowing my hard work had paid off and my integrity had won. It was satisfying to see the consequences play out right in front of me, all because I stayed calm and composed despite everything thrown my way. The moral of this story is that perseverance and integrity matter. Standing up for oneself, gathering the right evidence, and remaining calm can lead to turning a chaotic situation into one that showcases your strength. In the end, it is always worth it to fight for what is right.